2 p.m. and I will call to order the Los Pines Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 at 7:02 p.m. here at Aqua Water Supply Corporation Administrative Building, 415 Old Austin Highway here in Bastrop. I would like to thank all of you who have taken time to come out to our meeting tonight as we conduct the affairs of the Groundwater District. If you've been attending the last few meetings, you know that the board has many issues pending before it, and we're trying to work as quickly as we can through those issues. Now, item number 3 is public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for any one of you to come up here and address us on something that is not on the agenda, something that you may wish the board to take under consideration, something for the board to think about, but the board cannot engage in a discussion with you because it's not an agenda item. And the Attorney General's office and this last legislation is really cracking down on political subdivisions and public entities talking off script or off agenda. So it's not that we're being discourteous, we just can't talk to you other than to take your comments under advisement. With that being said, would anyone like to come up and address the board? As everyone runs up here. Okay.
Michael, I got something to say.
Okay.
This evening at 5:30, my wife looked at the computer, and we had 2 deals she printed off. And I'm not happy, because we weren't in the house all day, and I'm not happy getting emails at 5 o'clock for this meeting. I think for the next meeting, we need to have a time limit, hours put on for emails to come in to us. Thank y'all.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Carl. And I did speak to Jim about that this afternoon. It just so happened that I did come in, but I didn't have enough time to get through the plethora of information that I received this afternoon. And I think we need to establish a cutoff time in which, if the material isn't there,
We don't talk about it.
we don't talk about it, we move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Okay?
And I want this to be put on for the next month's meeting, so
Okay.
we can make a motion.
Okay. Will do. Any other comments? Review and approval of the minutes of the May 19th, 2021 regular board meeting. The minutes were included in your packet for your review. And if you are satisfied with the minutes, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved, Mike, but with a suggestion, and this is your prerogative, of course. The folks who speak in public comments or during a hearing, I would like to have those folks listed, and that may or may not be a good idea, but I'm just suggesting that to you as something
Well,
you might want to direct staff to do.
Okay. What we have done in the past is we've waited, and if you haven't signed up for an agenda item, or if you haven't signed up for public comment, they bring the sign-up sheet to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they haven't signed up, then I don't call them up here.
Yeah. But I mean, in the minutes themselves.
Oh, I
a
see.
list of
Yes.
those folks who.
Yes, we should identify, we should identify that. I will, yes, we should do that. Okay,
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 19th, 2021 regular board meeting. Any questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Item number 5 is review and approval of the minutes of the May 26, 2021 special board meeting. Again, those minutes were included in your packet, and if you find them satisfactory, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 26, 2021 special board meeting. Any questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Not being present, I abstain.
Okay. Motion carries. Consideration of the financial report for the period of May 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2021. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. The operating fund balance for the district at the end of May stood at $418,407.16. This would normally be the point in time where we'd start considering transferring some of that out, but given that we have the mitigation fund getting ready to start, we'll leave that money in for the time being. The tax pool fund stood at $3,557,591.05 for a grand total of $3,975,998.21. Revenues collected to date are tracking where we'd expect them to be for this time of year. This is just under halfway through the year, and we've collected just under half of what we expected to in terms of revenue. We projected 1.3 million, and we've collected just under $600,000 at this point. So user fees collected are basically where we would expect them to be. All of our expenses are pretty much in line with where we expect them to be for this time of year. I previously mentioned we are going to have higher bills on the website and computer-related costs. We've also recently had to pay for increased disk storage for our email servers and for some other associated costs. They're minor, but they will be more than what we had planned on. So we will see a budget amendment to correct that at the end of the year. But aside from those ongoing costs, everything else is tracking, like I said, where we expect to be for this time of year. We've been blessed with fairly light legal bills, although slightly higher hydrogeology bills for the year. But again, everything I think is in line, but if we get closer to the end of the year, we'll start preparing budget amendments as needed to address those items.
Does any board member have questions of our general manager regarding the financial report? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the financial report for the period of May 1st through May 31st, 2021.
I'm so moved.
I have a motion to accept. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I have a motion to accept, second it, and it's been seconded. Any questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The item carries. Okay. Item number 7, consideration and possible action on adopting guidance to post audio or video minutes online within 72 hours of the meeting. Who wants to take this?
I wrote it so you can hear me. I think it's very important, not only for the public, because the public needs to be able to, in a very timely manner, find what happened at our meetings. However, I've also found that sometimes I don't remember things exactly, and that happened a couple of meetings ago. And I had to wait a whole month before they were posted. And then I found out I didn't vote the way I intended to vote, and I was very disgusted with myself. But I think that we need to have the minutes, whether it's audio or video, I don't care. If we have a Zoom meeting, then certainly audio and video, but otherwise just recording. Jim, does it require any special equipment that we don't already have to do that?
So the main issue that we've run into with Zoom, it was just a multi-party process. We had to get from, the attorneys had to get it from Zoom. They would do any trimming if there was an executive session or dead spots. They'd get it to me. I would then recompress the video to try and save space on the site and then re-upload it. So it was just a time-consuming process. But in terms of equipment, there was nothing that, I mean, with the exception of using my personal computer to do the compression, because nothing we have in the office will really do that on a reasonable time scale.
I see.
But with not being on Zoom, with audio, there's no reason that could take any extended period of time. And I haven't tried with using this video camera, but it shouldn't take a significant amount of time either.
Okay. Does it take more space on our website to post audio, video?
So
minutes?
the video takes significantly more space than audio, yes ma'am.
Okay.
Part of the reason I was doing the compression was to try and shrink those videos down. Initially, when we started trying to post videos, we were having to chop them into 3 or 4 different pieces just to get them to upload successfully. Once we learned how to get the compression right, we were able to upload them in a single piece. But it was just, like I say, just a time-consuming process.
I guess it wouldn't hurt. I don't guess we're going to be having Zoom meetings, but it would be nice to know what it would cost for the future if it becomes necessary again.
I'd say with any luck, yeah, we won't need Zoom.
Well, I hope, yeah, I know. But they
but-
said there might be a relapse in the fall. We'll see.
But if the, you know, like, this will be our first trial of running off the video camera. I don't think it'll take an excessively long amount of time. It's just a matter, 72 hours, just for clarification's sake, would be Saturday night. So if we can make it,
I could say 24, but I was trying to be nice.
well, 24 would be, if it's a hard and fast rule, that would be very difficult.
That's what I thought.
But if we made it the following Monday, I think that's a reasonable goal.
Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. Well, do you have any objections to doing this?
I would like a slight grace period, because I don't know what we're gonna have to do with the audio. It should just be able to upload, but,
Okay.
you know, if there's an issue, I'll send out an email to the board saying we'll be delayed this month while we figure out how to upload audio. But I don't think it'll be an issue.
What happens if the minutes aren't approved by the board at the meeting?
I'm sorry? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not talking about using the recording as our official minutes. It's a supplement. The official minutes are written.
Right. And that's what we approved tonight.
But the recording doesn't change. I mean, you can't, I mean, what happened, happened.
Right. But
I'm not understanding.
Director Spangen, this is just a question of how fast we get either the video or the audio from a meeting uploaded to the district's website. Like Director Smith said, have been times where it's taken almost a month to get the video from Zoom up to the website. And so she's just trying to create a guideline for the district staff about how fast we should have those videos posted or the audio posted.
Well, I guess I misunderstood then, because I thought that you were wanting the minutes to be put out there.
No, I just want the recording available. A lot of places, I know the GMA 12 already does this, usually within 24 hours. I know a number of places that do, not everybody, of course.
In all fairness, GMA 12 has a pretty significant staff.
Yes, I understand, I agree.
Jim, on a somewhat related topic, is your equipment there sufficient to pick up all the voices and things?
It has been in the past. You know, it's been a while since we've used it, and we haven't used it in this room before, so if we, you know, but if we get through this one and we realize we need to augment that, we can augment it with, I know very, very little about microphones and what kind of, you know, sound, but we can look into that if we do need it.
And I am a little concerned that the folks in the back perhaps cannot hear all of us, especially those of you who are directing your voices this way. My mouth is plenty loud, but some of us speak more quietly, and I'm concerned that the folks in the back can't completely hear our conversations. And would it be possible to have an audio system that would be capable of reaching the back of the room from those of you speaking this way and those we who are speaking that way?
The district does have a PA system. It's a 6-input PA system. We currently have 4 microphones for it. It was purchased back, 2013. It's what we used at the Lexington meeting last week.
Yeah.
It's with the 6 inputs, we could have 4 for the board, 1 for staff, 1 for public. I didn't bring it this month because I didn't think we would need it in this room. I thought we had the acoustics here to not require it.
Well, I do think Phil brings a good point. We never really know how many people are going to show up, and the more that show up, those in the back are going to have a tougher time hearing us up here. So, I just think we ought to bring it with us so that we don't have to reshuffle something or yell at the top of our lungs so everybody can hear what's going on up here.
We'll have it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there's no action administratively, it'll be taken care of?
Do you want to vote for this, or are you
Well,
just willing to do it, or?
Part of the vagueness in the wording is, obviously, this isn't a rule change. And so we didn't know how, what you envision, because you asked for the agenda item, so we didn't know
Yeah.
how you envisioned this being done. Because, like I said, all we knew is it wouldn't be a rule.
Well, if
So-
you're willing to do it without action by the board, that's wonderful, but if you prefer action, you can make a motion.
Like I said,
What do you think?
we'll certainly,
Yeah.
my concern is getting hemmed in on having a hard deadline if we have a meeting on a Wednesday and then Friday and Monday are holidays.
Yeah,
But we're certainly willing to make every effort to get that done, yes, ma'am.
sure. I don't mind giving you flexibility.
Well, then, I would suggest we consider a motion approving getting the audio or video, and I think the thing that kind of threw us all is the minutes. It's really not the minutes, it's the meeting.
It's just
A
a
vid-
recording.
a recording of the meeting.
Recording of the meeting.
Posting of the meeting onto our website within 72 hours or as soon thereafter as possible.
How about 3 business days?
That's fine.
That
That
sounds
would be
good.
on-
I so move.
Give you at least till Tuesday evening, in case you had a Monday holiday.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I think 3 business days is sufficient.
Yeah.
So again,
I so move.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve a motion to post onto the district's website the audio or video of the meetings within 3 business days or as soon as possible thereafter. Any questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
You want more time, Carl?
I voted no.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Number 8, consideration of and possible action on amendments to the district budget to establish a mitigation fund and creation of a well assistance program for well owners in the district.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. We met at the end of May and had this initial discussion about the well mitigation program for the impacted area in North Lee County. One of the things that we asked for at that meeting was for you to authorize us to meet with the district auditors and get their guidance on how to set this up. We did meet with the district auditor. By the way, we'll be seeing them in July to go over the financial report or the financial audit for last year. And essentially their comment was if the board's good with it and the lawyers are good with it, then they don't see that there's an issue. They made some suggestions regarding how to handle our internal books and the documentation they'd like to see from us when they come back next year. And so we will work on making sure that we have that documentation on the back end for the auditors. But from their perspective, they had no real concerns about the program as we had previously discussed. So with that being said, what we'd like to do tonight, I know that we heard some discussion that the proposal of $3,500 per well was insufficient. I know that y'all have had some time to think on that. I wanted to come back and revisit those basic parameters. Is $3,500 still the number you want to stay with, and $500,000 for the total program? Or do we want to have some discussion of movement in there? And once that's done and we come to a final settlement for the cost per well, as well as the total value or total cost for the project, with your authorization, then we'll finalize the application process and hopefully have that up and running by July 1. But like I said, I just wanted to, now that you've had some time to think on it, come back and revisit if everybody's still comfortable with the numbers we had previously discussed.
So the 3,500 was allowing you to go ahead and implement that mitigation
Yeah.
to the well owner. If it was above that, you would have to go be committed to get approved, correct?
That's, I did want to clarify that, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry.
and 500,000 max for the year.
Yes, sir.
So I'm still happy with that.
Yeah, we don't need a new vote, do we?
And the only thing we're almost halfway through the fiscal year, so really, we're only talking about 6 months. And so I think that 500,000 should be sufficient for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think so too.
But what if it would run over?
Then
We
we'll
come
do a
back for-
budget
budget
amendment.
And so we'll prepare one budget amendment for July that'll just finalize the line items. And so that we have that line item on our accounts.
And the line item will be mitigation
It
fund.
will be for the mitigation fund for the $500,000 for the year.
Okay.
And then we'll come back, if we start approaching that line, if we start approaching that 500,000, we can come back with another budget amendment if needed, or we can discuss, how the board wants to proceed from there. But I think that at this point, hopefully, 500,000 should be sufficient for the year.
But that would be for the balance of the year.
So because we're running this as a reimbursement, this will be for anyone that has already incurred expenses, as well as people that incur expenses through the rest of the year. So we will see a significant pull up front as we take care of all the people that have already had to lower pumps over the last 9 months or so. And then we'll have whatever comes in after that.
But the first few months in, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be looking at.
So as we heard at the meeting in Lexington, Wayne Easel said 25 wells. If we're 25 with an average of 3,500, that 25 wells, and then if we assume there's another twice as many from other drills, that'd still be 50 wells. That $500,000 was based on the assumption of 150 wells in the first year. So I suspect depending upon how many run over that average 3,500, I still suspect we'd be at half, no more than half is my estimate right now.
And we're hopeful that once we fix those 150, we don't have to do them again next year, or the next year, or the next year, or the next year, or next year.
That would be correct.
So maybe the next year, we only have 25 or 30.
The ones that are going to be further up dip that haven't
That's
been
right.
impacted by the drawdowns thus
That's
far.
right.
That is the hope, yes, sir.
That's right.
But I understand you're going to bring the budget amendment forth at the July meeting, but that's not going to hold you up to go ahead. I mean, I think the board's given you enough direction.
Yes, sir.
And approved the amount, so you can begin, as you said earlier, kicking this program off around July 1st.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely, so what we will do is we will put, like I mentioned, normally we'd be pulling money out of our operating fund and putting it in tax pool at our current balances. We'll leave that money there. We'll begin tracking those expenses, and as we get applications in, as we begin handling that fund, once we get the authorization from you in July to create the line item, we'll add that line item to our budget and automatically debit out the costs that have already been paid. So that way we'll keep it on our books until we get the line item created in July.
But I'm confused when they talk about stuff that's already been done 9 months before.
Yes, sir.
but we're talking about 500,000 for the program.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, why, what if it's over the 5? You gonna come back in and raise it at that time?
That'd be a discussion that we'd have to have at the board, yes, sir.
But that 500,000 is based off of real numbers.
That-
We think there's 150 wells that have been or are going to be, need to be mitigated. And at 3,500 a well, that's where the $500,000 comes from. We're taking into consideration the past wells that have already been mitigated, that are our Lost Pines members.
Okay.
But I think indirectly, Mike raised a good question, at least for me. How far do we go back?
I would say we based, the Vista Ridge project came online April 15th, 2020.
When they turned the switch on.
So,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we ought to make sure that's clear,
Yes,
that's
sir.
the established
Yes, sir.
date.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, if somebody came in with a receipt from 1999, you know, I appreciate the ingenuity, but I don't think that's gonna meet the criteria.
Dadgummit.
And we'll make sure that that is clear, you know, clear in the application process as well.
And that started in 2020, you say?
Yes, sir.
So we're already over a year into it.
Yes, sir. It took a few months, I mean, it took 3 to 6 months before the impacts really started showing up on our side of the creek. But yeah, it's been pumping for just over, or a little over a year now.
Well, but I think that goes back to the question that the chairman raised. You know, when do we start? If Vista Ridge started in April of 20, I think you said?
Yes, sir.
But we didn't have any problems with it until August, say. Are you gonna start in April, or when you first had a problem?
No, in April, when they turned the switch on, that's when the drawdown started.
I-
It's not gonna be immediate. It's gonna take time to show up in those wells.
Right.
So we know that if it happened in August and they started pumping in April, that more than likely that pumping in April is what started it. So yeah, I'd say go back when it starts.
By basing it off of, because we don't know when the first person was impacted. We don't know if there was somebody that has a well that hasn't showed up, hasn't talked to us, that happened to be close to that well field that was impacted. We've never heard from them. Unlikely as that may be, but there may be someone out there like that who was impacted in June. It doesn't make sense for us to base our mitigation off of the first known case of damage, and instead just say any damage that occurred after the beginning of pumping, because again, we're doing this in a very limited geographic area. So it's limited to a very specific geographic area and a very specific time window. So I think if somebody's within that geographic area that had a Carrizo well that was impacted 30 days after Vista Ridge came on, I think that's a reasonable candidate for this program.
Well, I mean, that's fine if that's where you said it. I'm just trying to get a beginning thing.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think setting it from, like I said, I believe it was April 15th, tax day.
Yeah, it was April 15th.
Okay. So I think that's the, that would be our starting point. Anything that occurred after that would be eligible.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Are these wells all supposed, everybody's wells supposed to be registered with the?
That's a really good.
That will be part of the program, is that if the well is not registered, it will have to be registered with the district to be eligible for it.
Okay, I didn't register my well, and I come and register it tomorrow. I'm not gonna be able to go back 2 years and try to collect? You follow me with?
You can go back to April of 2020, yeah. You absolutely can, but you gotta register your well.
It's gotta be registered by
So-
when?
No, sir. So any well that is not registered with the district, when they apply for mitigation, will, as part of the process, become registered with the district. So this will be a way for us to fill in a lot of those wells in that area are older wells that predate the district by 20 years or so. So this will be a way for us to fill in those gaps and get to know what's actually out in that
I
area.
understand that.
But in terms of, do they have to be registered today to qualify for mitigation? I would say no, that this is a program, this program is there to help well owners, whether they had previously registered or not.
Jim, there's some issue, I think, with unregistered wells. We're not going to have a baseline for those wells to work off of. Are you comfortable doing a workaround on those? Say a 50-year-old well comes in, my well went dry. Well, we don't know how much water was in that well in the first place. I mean, are you comfortable, working with that?
I am. So there are a couple approaches that we could use there. Obviously, we don't want to keep a well down for an extended period of time. We need to get it, especially if it's a sole source well that that needs to be brought back up and running. At the end of the day, we can't always camera a well if we have a question. Bring in a camera, run it down, make sure that the well's not silted up or there's not some other underlying problem that would have caused it to fail.
Yeah.
And we can usually do that fairly quickly through collaboration with Post Oak Savannah or a couple other organizations that have well cameras. But in the case where it's an older well and it's a sole source well for a domestic well, we'd still have to do some quick inspection on it, but I think we can do that comfortably. Again, if it's Carrizo wells are incredibly obvious, especially old Carrizo wells, just by the layer of rust that tends to build up on the pump equipment. So we can pretty confidently look at especially the older wells and tell it's Carrizo. And then in some respects, why it's gone dry isn't really necessarily, if it's in the impacted area and it's had an issue, this program is here to help try and mitigate that cost.
I got one more question. How
Yes, sir.
many landowners have come to the office or called the office about this? Y'all have any ideas?
I've spoken to probably a half dozen, and that's just at the, calling into the office. And then out in public, I couldn't count that.
Well, I read in the paper, Giddings paper, 25 or 50, whatever, they said the wells are, done dropped.
Yes, sir.
So I was just wondering how many actually called the office.
Probably about a half dozen.
Any more questions? I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken if we haven't already done
Well,
so.
Mr. President, it says consideration of possible action on amendments to the.
He's gonna bring back an actual amendment.
Okay, we're not gonna take any action
And that's
tonight.
why I clarified,
Okay.
the board has approved the amount, but we don't have the actual budget amendment
Done.
before us.
Sounds good.
Okay? The next item is to conduct a public hearing regarding the application of Manville Water Supply Corporation for operating permits for 2 wells located in Lee County under District Wells number 583960019, well number 1, 583960020, well number 2, in the Hooper Aquifer to withdraw no more than 564 acre-feet of water per year from each well with a total production of 1,128 acre-feet of water per year combined from the 2 wells to be used for municipal purposes in the Manville Water Supply Corporation service area in Lee County, the Manville Water Supply Corporation application. Before I open the public hearing, our legal counsel has requested to speak to the board. So Matt, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Just a couple of preliminary matters before we begin with the public hearing. And Director Steinbach, this may be one of the documents that you received and hadn't had a chance to read, so I think it's beneficial for the board. But in addition, there are some other implications. The district received yesterday via email a letter from Environmental Stewardship and Simsboro Aquifer Defense Fund regarding the application process for these 2 proposed wells. And the district provided a memo in response to that. So that, I think that memo went out this afternoon. That may have been one of the items that crossed your computer screen. The long and short is that environmental stewardship and Sawdeth appear to be under the impression that the district staff compared modeling results that were generated during the permit review process to the GMA proposed DFCs. We wanted to clarify, and we stated in that memo that that was not the case. The
Matt,
model
let me ask
outputs
you, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
were-
but let me ask for a clarification. My understanding is the city of Hutto has declared has...
And we'll get to that, that's the second
But
preliminary.
is that going to interfere with our ability to have a public hearing before the CCH?
No, sir, we can begin the public hearing this evening. We can't take action on item 10, and I'll get to that. I wanted to give you all clarification that the model outputs were compared to the existing 2017 approved DFCs. And we're not sure entirely for the basis of the confusion, but we also wanted to give environmental stewardship and Sawdeth the opportunity to address the board on that issue if they'd like. Jim's better suited on the technical side, so he's available as well if there are any questions. So if anybody's here that would like to address that, please.
Sure.
Mr. Weir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I do it from here or there or where you?
Come up here. And please speak and address, when you get up here, just state your name so we can put it down that you address the board.
Evening, I'm Andy Weir with Sinsboro Aquifer Water Defense Fund. So there was a mistake in our letter. So the confusion was the pumping file used to generate the review that Andy Donnelly put together. And what we were meant to talk about is, so the review says this is the drawdown. Actually, I guess it's the drawdown is going to be 185 feet. And then they talk about the desired future condition, which is 165 feet for that aquifer. And so I looked that up, and that desired future condition comes from 2017, and that number was generated by the old computer model, the old GAM. So the GAM that you had in place back in 2017. So you're comparing drawdown under the new GAM to numbers from the old GAM. That's apples to oranges, and that's what we meant to address in the letter. Now, you're hard pressed to talk about the DFC in the new GAM because that's a process you're working on. The other is that what you could do is you had a presentation where the Groundwater Management Area 12 did their best effort to interpret what the new GAM, what the DFC would look like if it was generated by the new GAM. And that was a run called S3. And that said the drawdown in the Hooper would be 88 feet. And then, because you don't have the MAG that's promulgated by Water Development Board, you would have permitted pumping. And the permitted pumping, I don't have the table in front of me right this second, but I believe it was 2,700 roughly acre feet of water. So that's what those numbers look like. You know, in the report from Andy Donnelly, he says there's 185 feet of drawdown. There's currently 1,800 feet of pumping permitted in the Hooper, and you're going to add 1,128. That's going to exceed the 1,200 that's there in the MAG. And the drawdown is more than the old. So those are the old numbers. It exceeds the old numbers. But that's apples to oranges. So we said, hey, let's look at this under today's numbers with the new GAM. And the new GAM says 88 feet. And the total pumping, permitted pumping, would be 2,700. Well, if you take the current 1,800 and you add the 1,100, you come out to just shy of 3,000 acre feet. It's 29.9 something. So you exceed the permitted pumping, and you exceed the drawdown by twice the amount under the new GAM numbers. So that's apples to apples. So we just wanted you all to understand that you need to look at it in terms of today's numbers and what the impact is. That's apples to apples. You're twice the amount of drawdown that you want to see, that you've approved as the desired future condition, and you're exceeding the pumping that you have said would be desired amount of pumping in that aquifer. So that's the apples to apples. When I tried to communicate this with my colleagues, environmental stewardship, and with SawDef colleagues, I've been out of town. I just returned this afternoon. And so it was misinterpreted. And the letter you received yesterday talked about the GAM runs used in the review. What we meant to address is apples to apples, not apples to oranges, when you look at evaluating this with the desired future condition. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I may have confused you all to no end. Yes?
It's not did someone else have a question? Andy, this isn't directly exactly at you, and I want to say it before I say anything else, that in the past I have been affiliated in various ways with both environmental stewardship and with SawDef, but I no longer am. Jim, did you send ES and SawDef a copy of the memo that you sent us?
No, sir, I did not.
I did have some time to study it, and I appreciate in this particular instance that you had no extra time to get this out earlier. It was something that came up very late, and so I recognize the issue, in this particular instance of the timeliness of it. Doing this stuff for about, water issues for over 30 years. And I don't have the expertise to interpret either what Andy is sending out or what you sent out in the reply to the environmental stewardship and SawDef, comments about that. Now, I just wonder how to proceed. I can't make a judgment. I don't have the expertise to do it. Is there some procedure we could use where the two organizations and you could kind of do a back and forth and perhaps, come to some accord, at least narrow the issues if you don't get completely decided on it, or succinctly state what the differences are and bring them to us? Do we have time to do that?
I agree, because I just want to say the difficulty I have sitting here, I hear a bunch of numbers being thrown out
And letters.
and I,
Without
The-
pictures.
and nothing to compare it to.
Let me just caution you, there has been a contested case hearing requested on this matter, and a lot of these issues will be resolved, a lot of the number issues will be resolved in that contested case hearing proceeding. As far as the issues that were raised in the letters presented by ES and SawDef, it seemed to be focused on the idea that we used the wrong DFCs to evaluate the permit, and I think that issue's been resolved, and we've conveyed to the board that we have used the correct current 2017 adopted DFCs in the permit review process. So I do believe that we can proceed. I just, in the letter, they raised several issues as to the permit process and whether proceeding with the hearing is appropriate at this time. It's our conclusion that we can go ahead and proceed with the public hearing.
And I'm just apologizing for the mismatch in our communication. So I think we're ready to move forward unless there's any other questions.
On the contested case hearing, as Mr. Director Cook noted, we did receive a request for contested case hearing from the city of Hutto. Under our rules, we're required to conduct a preliminary hearing before that contested case hearing can occur. So I think we're looking at doing that on July 1st at the moment, or excuse me, July 21st at the moment. Sorry, Jim, didn't mean to cause you any stress over there. But because we have to undertake that preliminary hearing before we can act on the permit.
On the hearing request.
On the hearing request. Item 10, or the permit, item 10 regarding consideration and possible action on the actual applications will need to be tabled until conclusion of preliminary hearing and, if necessary, contested case hearing.
Do we need
So-
to continue the public hearing process since we've opened it? We don't
Yes.
want to close,
Well-
so we'll move it to the...
Well, we're doing the preliminaries right now. We haven't opened it. We can go ahead and open it, and it is our recommendation to continue the public hearing at the end of tonight's presentation.
Do you need a motion to move forward with public hearing, item number 9?
To open the public hearing, and
You
we'll
need a
hear from-
motion?
No, I think I
We
can...
Okay.
he can open the public hearing. We
All
will
right.
need a motion to continue it.
Yes.
Before we move on, what is the nature of, what is the city of Hutto contesting with the permit, and how could we, obtain more information about that?
The city of Hutto may be here this evening. I'm not sure if they are or not,
I don't know who represents them.
but if they are not,
Interesting. We can send you a copy of the contested case request. We can send it out and then also post it on the district website with the permit information.
But I mean, in 10 words, what is
They're
what's the issue?
modeling disagreements.
two words.
Oh, Lord.
The same basic, their experts ran a different set of models, not the GAM. They ran a different set of models with a different set of variables and came up with a wildly different result from what we found. In the process, we realized that there may be some problems with the GAM in that particular cell. So there may be, this as much as I dislike contested cases, this is probably a very ripe issue for a contested case because there are some questions of science that need to be hammered out here.
So is Hutto, in this respect, maybe defending some of their existing wells or something?
Yes, sir. Hutto has 3 wells that are drilled in Williamson County. Williamson County is not a groundwater district county, so there is no regulatory authority there. The wells are, I believe, 1,000 to 1,100 feet from the proposed Manville wells, which would fit within our spacing rules if we were applying our spacing rules from the Simsboro and the Carrizo to the Hooper. But they're, like I said, their modeling has them concerned about possible impacts on their wells going forward. So,
And their wells are all in the Hoover.
yes, ma'am. In that area, they do have, City of Hutto does have Simsboro wells, but that's not in this area, not part of the contested case.
Okay, then I will open the public hearing on the application received by the district from the Manville Water Supply Corporation for an operating permit for 2 wells located in Lee County, wells number 1 and wells number 2 in the Hooper Aquifer, to withdraw no more than 564 acre-feet per each year from each well, with a total production of 1,128 acre-feet of water per year combined from the 2 wells for municipal use. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this?
I think we had anticipated calling the applicant and the general manager and then the...
Okay.
So we'll start with Manville.
Okay.
I'm Jack Adderstrom. I'm president of the board. I've got vice president here, our engineer, representative from Jerry Fontaine and Associates is here, and of course Tony Graham,
General Manager.
general manager. As you all know, Manville is a non-for-profit water supply corporation. We serve approximately 20,000 customers distributed in 4 counties: Lee County, Bastrop, Williamson, Travis. We're all experiencing growth. We're seeing it everywhere throughout all our systems. So in order to be able to provide the water that we believe will be needed, we're hoping that you will consider our request for these 2 permits. I can't talk to you about GAMS or any of the modeling, but
Thank you.
we can use the water. And this is also very close to our distribution plant, our treatment plant, close to our infrastructure. So it makes a lot of sense for us and our members. Tony?
We need the water. Place is growing.
Any of the board members have a question?
Where is your central point of location at?
It's on County Road 313, but I think they changed it to 455.
Is that in Lee County or?
It's Lee County.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with y'all's structure or anything like that.
It's right behind us is Alcoa's road
Right,
For the-
right.
mining, and but it goes down into 313, goes back around to Williamson County
Right.
out there, and then it's on. If you go on 112, it's right off of 112.
Right, yes, I'm familiar with that. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Isn't there a little water well, couple of water wells out there that is being sold? That the water's being pumped and sold to somebody? From out there on the Dowdy place?
Yeah, Sam Dowdy's place. That's right across from our pump station.
Sells the hose.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
I have,
Yeah.
you know, we're having problems with a lot of wells in Lee County, both the water levels dropping and sometimes the wells failing or the pumps having to be replaced on that. Have you addressed the effects that your pumping would have on Lee County? Not just the wells, but also the private property rights, in the sense that the water is, groundwater is owned in place there, and how it would affect land values and things like that. Have y'all gotten into any?
Yeah, we have to go out and notify within a half a mile of where we're going to drill the property owners.
But beyond that, will your wells have effect on water levels in Lee County in particular?
They haven't so far. And we've let Lost Pines use one of our wells to monitor the drawdowns and everything on it.
And these wells would be in the Hooper aquifer, so you know, some of the more shallow wells out there shouldn't be affected.
Have you addressed how your drilling in the Hooper would affect, say, the Simsboro and Calvert Bluff formations in the aquifer, and those folks who would have wells there?
I don't believe.
I don't think it does. It's, you know, we got our wells there at the Blue on 309, and shallow wells 620 foot deep, and the deeper ones are 820 feet. And they're higher in iron the deeper you go, and so.
I realize that's not a real heavily populated area, and a lot of folks out there who perhaps own land, wells, they perhaps don't even have wells out that way. Is that area served by any
Aqua water,
aqua water and any other water systems?
and we're right down the road from it.
Yeah, we do,
481 and
we provide water to customers in Lee County,
Mhm.
as well as Williamson, just down the road.
So you have some distribution system in
Yes.
Lee County, I take it?
Yes.
I guess those are the questions I have for you at this time. Thank you.
Yes.
We had a public meeting over in Lexington and heard about a large new subdivision that is going in over there. Do you think you'll provide water to them, or they're just gonna go water wells?
That, I'm not familiar with the particular subdivision you're talking about, but I believe it's outside of our service area.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Director Rogers, that particular subdivision is in the Lee County Water Supply Corporation, CCN.
Okay.
And my understanding is that they don't currently have the infrastructure to serve that entire development.
Okay.
So at this point, they can serve portions of it, but not the entire thing, is my understanding.
Okay.
So what we would be looking at is perhaps a slew of exempt wells going in that area.
Well,
It's outside of our.
in all, I mean, this,
Yeah.
you are correct, but that's not pertinent to the
Yeah.
hearing tonight. And I'd be happy to discuss that with you afterwards. We've had conversations with Lee County officials about that issue, so I'd be happy to brief you on that at some point.
Okay?
Thank
Again,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank
Jim?
Mr. President, members of the board, I'll probably be able to touch on some of the questions that you raised, Mr. Cook, with regard to the impacts to the upper aquifers, impacts from the production. You were all provided with copies of Andy Donnelly's hydrology report. As we pointed out, the key point of contention in the contested case is the accuracy of the model, but we can draw some basic conclusions from looking at it. The majority of the impacts that we see from any pumping project tend to transmit up dip, rather than, there's some lateral, there's very little down dip, but most of it goes in an up dip direction, which in this case is across the county lines and up into Williamson County, with some expansion of drawdowns into Milam County as well. As part of the notification process, we received some feedback from landowners in that area. I've already gone up, done some well gauging. Post Oak Savannah already has an automated monitoring well up in that part of the world. So we're starting to collect data from the well owners that are in the immediate vicinity of the proposed project. But like I said, most of those impacts are projected to travel north into those two counties rather than into Lee County itself. The question as far as impacts on the upper aquifers, Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was in the single foot estimates based on the model.
Is that county-wide or localized?
It's localized. That's gonna be what the model says, and we'll probably be addressing that with some site-specific data too, with some more thoughts.
Ultimately, you know, the model results that we have from the GAM, which again are not as ironclad as we normally expect, but the project-specific drawdown over 50 years was predicted to be on the order of 50 foot at the wellhead and rapidly diminishing as you move out from the project. With a 50-foot drawdown at the wellhead, the level of transmission to the upper aquifers, or I guess drawdown from the upper aquifers to meet that difference is, like I said, it comes out to be a couple of feet. Again, according to the model. So that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of the communication between the upper aquifers. You saw in Andy's report, he also looked at, and this was the first time for us trying this, was to look at project-specific impacts on surface water resources, which I think is at the ragged edge of what's, the GAM was designed for. But we were able to, Andy was able to pull that out, and over at the end of the 50 years?
Then, end of 50 years.
At the end of the 50 years, it was, the GAM estimated that there would be a 25 acre foot per year impact on the flow in the Colorado River. Which again, at that level, whether that's noise or a significant result, is kind of questionable, but we did try to pull that out of the GAM to see what kind of information we could get to, because I know that's been a question that's been raised in the past. So with that, we did try to address, possible impacts on surface water users. In terms of groundwater users, this puts us in an interesting question because this is kind of a very, very small scale Vista Ridge. We're looking at a pumping center on a county line with possible impacts drifting across that county line. The difference here is that Williamson County is an unregulated county, and so the questions of, what the district's responsibility are, is one of the things that will have to be examined through the contested case process. We certainly believe that the district spacing rules and everything else would apply to those wells, even though it's an unregulated county. But we are aware that there's a sensitivity associated with that of having a possible permit on the county line with impacts drifting across. Aside from reading Andy's report, I don't know what else I can say at this point in time, so I'd be happy to address questions from y'all.
Well, of course, I am speaking as just one of 10 board members, so my worries, in a sense, don't go beyond me. But I was also worried about that fact that the wells were located very close to Williamson County and would have some impact, I don't know if on any particular wells, but certainly there would be some economic impact if water levels under properties fall and make them less valuable because of a little more scarcity of water. And we would be creating the same situation that Post Oak Savannah has created for us. The folks in Williamson County would have no recourse because they're not in our district of having any mitigation or perhaps not even any standing in some sense if this were contested in some way. And I don't know how to address that, or if we need to, or what.
I certainly understand your position, and while the district has the ability to regulate how far from a property line a well has to be drilled, there's no provision in Chapter 36 saying how far from a county line a well has to be drilled. So how we would begin to approach something like that, I'm not sure how that could be done. Or if we could even approach the idea of containing all impacts within the district. I'm not sure that something like that would be practical from a rulemaking standpoint. But it's certainly be an interesting conversation to have.
Did you have any informal conversation with Manville as to why they located their wells in Lee County as opposed to, say, Williamson County? Is it well spacing issues, or?
That's where their property is located. That's the property that they want to drill on is where they have their water treatment plant, and that's where some of their intake lines from other well fields come through that same central processing plant. So this puts, it puts their wells basically where it needs to be to get processed and distributed.
So do you see that as essentially an economic issue for them, a cost-saving issue, or were there other reasons, geographic reasons, why they wouldn't locate in, say, Williamson County or perhaps some other location? Is it mostly about pipelines and rights-of-ways and things like that?
I suspect at this point in time, they may have wished they'd put it in Williamson County where there's no district. But like I say, that's where that.
Well, I understand they present a permit with you and you process it. I just didn't know if there had been any conversation about that, whether there's any really compelling reasons to put, other than economic reasons, to put the wells where they are.
The old joke of why do people rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Mm-hmm. Well, drill wells where you've got the property, I think, is the idea there.
And again, this is a personal, almost a peeve with me. I would, and whether you take me seriously or not is, I'm one of 10. I would really like to see every requirement and condition in Chapter 36 be put into a permit and how that issue is specifically addressed. For instance, economic impacts, socioeconomic impacts, things like that. And I would like to, and again, this is just me, I'd like to see those addressed in the permit itself and not in addendums and technical documents and things like that, so that anybody who read the permit, including me, would have everything in front of them right there, pertaining to the permit.
So to clarify, you mean in the draft permit? Like you want all the checklist items from chapter 36 included in the draft permit? I'm not sure I follow.
Yes, yeah, every requirement and condition and option that chapter 36 would give an applicant, I would like to see that elaborated in a permit so that you have one-stop shopping if you want to see what's going on with that permit, and you're not looking for addendums and technical documents and things like that. And again, that's me.
I think there's a middle ground we can find. I'm not sure that some of those details necessarily fit inside the four corners of a permit, but I think we can look at a middle ground of expanding the information that is included in there.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay. I will ask anyone who is present if you would like to address the board on this application. That if you do, if you would come up to the podium, state your name for the record, and that you're addressing the Manville Water Corporation Supply permit application.
Thank y'all. I'm Andy Weir with Simsboro Aquifer Water Defense Fund. I have this to share with the board. Can they get that? It's just 2 pages. I just wanted to address y'all regarding this permit. When I first read the notice hearing, I thought it was a slam dunk. It's a small permit in the bigger scheme of things, permits that you all have seen. In the Hooper, which isn't a lot of wells in the Hooper, and so it seemed very reasonable. And it can be reasonable, but it under your own guidelines that y'all have, it seems to be pushing things. What I've handed you is 2 pieces of paper. One is a little map, and it's not great in the black and white, but there's 2 dots with a X or a plus sign in there, and those are the 2 Manville wells, Tonka 1 and Tonka 2. There's some smaller dots, and I pasted the mileage on there. There's at least 4 Simsboro wells registered with the district that are 2.3 to 2.5 miles away. And so my biggest concern was something that I mentioned earlier, is as I understand now, let me digress a second, that if y'all have decided to use the 217 DFCs, there was a memo to that effect. If I could find that on the internet sometime or get a copy of that, that would be great. But what I wanted to address in using the...
Andy, all
yes,
4
sir.
of these other wells listed on here from 2 point, those are all Simsboro wells?
Correct.
Okay.
All the wells that I've listed on there. I will say I know I've spoken to a landowner, and there is a Hooper well. From the information he just shared with me about the depth of his well, then he is across the street from this thing, and he is in the district, but he's not registered with y'all. So there's a Hooper well very close to these wells. So I focus on those DFCs, and that's what I've applied to you on this second page. You can see the 2017 DFCs, and those are the first 3 columns. So the Hooper, the drawdown would be 165 feet, and that's averaged across the district, I believe. And then the MAG for 2070, the modeled available groundwater. So this is the best science available that says this is how many acre feet of water we should take out of the Hooper before we do damage. Okay, and so that's 1,255 acre feet. Okay, so let's look at the Manville request. They want to pump 1,128 acre-feet of water. In Andy Donnelly's review, he says that currently you have somewhere less than 800 acre-feet of pumping in the Hooper in the district. So 800 plus the 1,128 that Manville's requesting puts you at 1,928 acre-feet of water. Well, in the year 2070, you're only going to have 1,255 acre-feet available. You're way overboard. I mean, the Manville request itself is almost tops out the total of water that you've set aside to be pumped. So, because these mags are based on the year, and I don't have in front of me the mag for 2022 or 2024, but it's not going to be 1,200 acre-feet of water. It's going to probably be significantly less, might even be less than what Manville is requesting. So you may have to say, this is, too much. We can't afford that in our planning process. The other concern then is with the overlying aquifers, and that's why I gave you the map with the Simsboro wells. On my colored map here, you'll see lots of red. And what I've been sharing with Jim and with Mr. Totten and Mr. Donnelly is mapping using the data from the Water Development Board and using data on the GAM run. I'm using the S7 pumping file. And this is what's going to happen to the Simsboro in 2070. The hydraulic head, the water level in your well, let's say, will be 100 feet below the top of the aquifer formation itself. So where the Simsboro sands start, if you had a well in there, you would have to go 100 feet below the top of those sands to find water. At that point, and this is near the outcrop, the shallow zone of the Simsboro, this is where and you're only about 200 feet below the surface. That's why people drilled there. But the aquifer is only 200 feet thick at that point. So in 2070, there's only going to be 100 feet of available water in that aquifer formation. Now, bear with me on this science. One of the things that you all were presented when Andy did the presentation of the new GAM, talked to you about the updated GAM in 2019. And one of the things about the new GAM, and you see it in this file here, when you run the new GAM, the drawdown is much less and the available amount of water is much more. And people ask the question, I've heard this at GMA 12 and I've heard it from y'all when he presented this presentation. We were out at the Lee Giddings Library. Where does that come from? Was this just magic? And they said, no, it comes from communication between the layers. There's that much extra water because there is significant communication between the layers. So on a regional basis, when you run this scenario, you get a lot more water. So it's going to be a double whammy for the people in the Simsboro here. Because come that time, there's only going to be 100 feet of water. You're desaturated a half of the Simsboro sands at that point. And you're going to have somebody sucking out the bottom of that because there's going to be a lot more pumping in the Hooper that's going to be communicating that water down. So anybody in the Simsboro in this red zone is going to have a double whammy. So that's just information that I think, I'm a citizen scientist. I'm asking the board to direct your staff to say, hey, is there any validity in this stuff? Is this Andy guy wacko when he comes up here and talks to us? Or is he got some idea of what's going on? The data files that I'm using are the exact same data files that are available to your staff. It's all based on the mapping that's we're using for this is based on files from the Texas Water Development Board. I'm not using anything different. We did have the S7 pump file run under the new GAM 2020. In December of 2020, we asked George Rice, a hydrologist, to run that file at the same time that you all ran the file on the Carrizo, and we ran it on the Simsboro. And so this is the data that I'm using, and it matches the data that is available to you all through your staff. So I would ask that you look into this and say, is that where we want to be down the road? Do we want, you've got a brand new neighbor who's unregistered, who's right across the street, who's certainly going to be affected because he's in the Hooper. And then you've got the Simsboro wells. Now, I understand they're a little bit further down dip from these Manville wells, so the impact may not be as strong. But I would also ask that you run those same water level files, because I don't have access to the Hooper data. So the future, because I can show you the Carrizo and the Simsboro and the Calvert Bluff, all of them in the outcrop in the shallow flow zone where they begin, they're all being dewatered. In 2070, you are going to have red all over the place, and you're going to have 100 Simsboro wells that are going to be just like the 100 Carrizo wells you have now. You're going to see 100 Simsboro wells at the same effect. So please direct your staff to look into these and map out what does that region look like, and what are the impacts on the people that have groundwater rights that are living there now, right? And maybe some of these wells were drilled before you as a board even came into existence. You still have a responsibility to them. And so I would just ask that you use your staff to find that information. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have one quick question. What I'm looking at is Milam County, is it coming down on the upper right-hand quarter, and then Lee County and then Williamson County?
Correct.
Okay. I was just trying to get my bearings.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Unfortunately, my map with the roads didn't turn out.
Right, that's what I was looking at a while ago, looking at the map.
And there is this U-turn, I mean, where the 405 turns into 313, happens on this U-turn. There's this,
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
right
there's
after there's the road comes
Right.
down and makes a big square U.
Right.
And that's where the road changes names. And there are, at least from people I was talking to, landowners that I was just talking to, that there's at least a couple there. I know of one for sure, because he gave me the depth of his well, and I plotted that on the aquifer levels. And it looks like he's right square in the middle of the Hooper. And we're talking 1,000 feet or less. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Donnelly and Jim, are y'all kind of in agreement with what Andy Weir is saying? Is there any way, I mean, it worries me sitting up here.
There are some
hearing
issues.
that. It worries me a lot, and I don't know.
There are some technical issues with what he's presenting. He's taking average drawdowns that we're seeing and calculating in the confined portion of the aquifer, and he's applying that across the interface where the top of the aquifer occurs, which you can't do. Because at that point you shift from confined to unconfined storage, which means basically your drawdowns essentially grind to a halt. So you can't take drawdowns that are calculated for a confined system and apply them all the way down past the top of the aquifer, because it doesn't work that way. So yeah, I mean, there's some things we need to look at, but some of the things that he's presented are just technically incorrect. And
Well, is he making other points that you consider valid?
I mean, we need to look at the Simsboro. One of the things that we've, as Jim talked about, where we have, a small amount of communication that the GAM is showing up through from the Hooper up to the Simsboro. We'll be looking at, I think, and addressing that a little bit based on some of the analysis of the Tonka test well. I think that what we're seeing in the Tonka test well will indicate that the amount of vertical communication from the production zone in the Hooper upward is going to be limited, because that production zone in the Hooper is all the way at the bottom, and there's like 300 feet of very tight sediment above that until you get to the Simsboro. Whereas the GAM...
Is that the rec law?
No, it's actually part of the Hooper. The Hooper is 450 or 500 feet thick. The sands that they identified are all the way at the bottom, and above that is like 300 feet of silt and clay. And the model will treat that all as one unit, so it won't distinguish between the differences in the Hooper from the top to the bottom. So I think the upward migration of impacts from production from these wells is probably even overstated in the GAM, and it's pretty small there. So, but there's some issues that we need to iron out between some of the comments that he's made and some of the issues that were raised in the Hutto letter that we'll be looking at and providing some feedback on.
Jim, are you capable of sort of addressing that in some way? Well, what I don't want to see is folks come up here who have studied the matter and have a lot of expertise, and they make their comments and go away, and then nothing happens. And I don't know how we address that.
Like I said, Andy, we've received Andy's emails last week about the Simsboro. Andy and I reviewed them. We haven't had time to get back to him. Obviously, we lost a day and a half this week responding to this other memo. So, but we've reviewed his work. We're trying to understand the approach he's applying. He's developed some interesting ideas on socioeconomic impacts and other things he's presented at the GMA level. But I think Andy's right. There are some technical issues that some of his other analysis, it's a lack of, I guess maybe a lack of nuance. But he's, like I said, we haven't had time to give him feedback, but we have reviewed the work that he's provided.
But you'll include that in the process as we go through the permitting process?
I see most of what Mr. Weir said as being more relevant to the DFC process rather than the permitting process. I think most of his comments, I realize he touched on this, but the majority of his focus tonight seemed to be more on the DFCs and the impacts of DFCs down the road. And so I think that's where those comments would factor in more appropriately.
Would there come a point as we work through this permit of looking at mitigation perhaps for if some wells are damaged, especially that Hooper well he mentioned? It's unregistered, and of course you can't know it's there if it's not registered, but I am concerned about that we're going to have the same problems on a much smaller scale, of course, with this permit that we've had with the Vista Ridge permit.
That conceivably could be part of the conversation the board has once the contested case process is completed. Yes, sir.
I see. Okay.
So, in 2026.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on the Manville Water Supply Corporation application?
I just have a question. I don't know if that letter that Hutto, is that going to be made public?
Yes, sir. We'll put that on the website.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Then I will entertain a motion that we continue this public hearing at the July 21st, 2021 regular board meeting of the district.
So moved.
May I make one suggestion? And just in the event something happens and we don't meet on the 21st at the next scheduled
Next scheduled regular meeting, okay.
Yeah, I accept that.
And, Mr. President, just to clarify, part of the reason we need to continue this is once the board makes a decision to refer the matter to a contested case, that's the point in time where ex parte communication comes
Right.
in. We'd like a little bit of time to develop a list of possible attorneys to represent the board during this matter. Greg Ellis and then some other options as well. And if the board were to make that action tonight, well, that would end our ability to give you that list. So by delaying this, or carrying it over to next month, it gives us the opportunity to develop that for y'all.
Well, I have a motion and a second that we continue this public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Is there any questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mike, I was wondering if anybody else besides Mr. Weir wanted to make comments. I may have.
And on item number 10, in light of the fact that we're continuing the public hearing, I would entertain a motion that we table item number 10.
So move.
I have a motion and a second to table item number 10 regarding Manville's application for operating permits for the Manville Water Supply Corporation. Any questions from the board? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Jim, we're down to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'll try and keep this brief.
Thank you.
For the reporting period ending in May 31st, 2021, we had 13 new wells that were drilled within the district, pretty much all irrigation with the exception of one test well. The only two real items I have to report, I've had a conversation with Greg Ellis, something that came up after the legislative session. He kind of pitched the idea of working with Bob Mason's Southwest, what used to be Southwest Texas, now it's
The Meadows, Robert Race?
yeah, at the Meadows
Meadows
Center
Center.
down in San Marcos, essentially conducting a post-mortem of the permit issuing process down in Gonzales County. The Gonzales County permits that were issued down there basically featured a who's who of hydrologists and hydrogeologists and attorneys. And so we have a definite case where we can look at who testified to what were the actual outcomes, and how accurate were these different parties in making their predictions in court. I think this is actually a really good idea. It creates a baseline of how accurate and how effective some of these hydrogeologists have been in the past. I believe, Andy, you weren't involved, so you're spared from that. The study, as proposed right now, is basically, it would be a 2-year study, approximately $25,000 in funding for a graduate student, a couple of graduate students to carry out the work. Gonzales County Underground is currently discussing funding it as well. I asked Greg for a scope of work or any sort of document that I can give you all to look at tonight. Maybe we could consider something, but he didn't get it to me, so I wanted to let you know it's out there. I think it's a good idea, and as soon as I can get you all a scope of work, I'd like to come back and talk to you about possibly contributing to that. I think it will do wonders for kind of expanding groundwater management, not only our knowledge in court, or not only expanding the knowledge for judges and presiding over these cases, but also for the legislature as well. So I think this is, like I said, I think it's a great thing, and I'm sorry I don't have a document for y'all tonight to look at, but I wanted you to know that the idea is out there, and I think it's something we can participate in.
Is Greg going to come before the board and give us a wrap-up of what took place at the legislature?
I can check with them and see. I think we can get something like that worked out.
We should have that. I mean, that's one of the things we utilize him for.
Yes, sir. And I mean, the session essentially ended with a whimper when it came to a lot of the groundwater bills. They just sort of tapered off. But we will get him to give either a written report or give you all an in-person report.
Okay.
I think the last time he gave us a summary was almost the end, but there wasn't that much pending, but there still still some.
I think it would be nice to have him come in person and talk to
Okay.
us.
We can try to get that scheduled for the July meeting.
But Jim, I like your idea of getting involved in that so we have that information. I think that's excellent.
I mean, this is certainly one of those cases where we could be a free rider, because I think it sounds like there are going to be other districts that jump in on it, but I do believe it's an interesting question. I think it could be done in a lot faster than 2 years if he wasn't using grad students. Having been a grad student, I know how that works. But 2 years and $25,000 is certainly a reasonable time frame and cost for a project like that, and especially if we split it with a couple other districts.
Yeah.
I think that would be a worthwhile thing. The second thing that I have for you, so we do need to begin, we need to plan the district's DFC hearing. One of the things that you found on the dais tonight was a packet that I've put together that has the official notification that was sent by Post Oak Savannah starting the DFC comment period. Attached to that are maps of every aquifer, the 6 major aquifers in the district, showing the drawdowns by decade in each aquifer, going from 2020 through 2070. And then at the very back of that packet is, again, a review of the proposed DFC zones and how those proposed DFC zones that we've discussed in the past would affect the DFC numbers. I just wanted to get that material in front of you for your reference, and now that you've got it, we'll get it up on the website so the public can review it as well. We've been trying to piggyback planning the DFC workshop to review, to get everyone back up to speed on this off of looking at availabilities for the LCRA hearing. We've been leaning towards July 14th, which I now understand is the LCRA hearing.
Oh, yes.
I believe so.
That's nice.
I may have let that.
Nobody told us.
So I will verify that, but I will.
No, that's okay.
My understanding is that one got taken off of our, because we were looking at that for the DFC workshop. So what I would propose instead is that we could conduct a DFC workshop starting an hour before our normal board meeting in July. So we've already contacted the Lee County Library. They've got us, they'll let us in an hour early so we can conduct a workshop and then conduct our normal July meeting. I figured we know we can get most of the board members there, we can get the public there, and rather than extending it till midnight, we can just knock it out a little bit earlier.
Sounds good.
So I would like to recommend that we set up the DFC workshop for July 21st and then schedule our DFC hearing to follow after that. The question that I have is, how much time do you think is appropriate to allow people to review the material from the workshop, to develop comments that they may want to submit? I mean, in theory, we can try and set it up for the 28th of July, or we can push it into the early weeks of August. It's just a question of how much time y'all feel would be appropriate to provide the public between the workshop and having the actual DFC hearings in the district.
I think early August.
I
That's
do
just a
too. I
week.
think 7 days is just too quick.
I kind of felt the same way, but I wanted to, there was some comment that doing it faster while it's fresh in everybody's mind would be better,
I don't know
but.
if I'll be in town, but that's okay.
So if early August is the goal, then, we could look at the first or the second week of August to do it. Under state law, we have to do a minimum 90-day comment period, but there is no maximum, so we can push it into August to get it done if we need to. And that will give us the time to get more feedback going forward. So I think what I'm hearing is that we've got the guidance to begin looking at dates in early August to set up the DFC hearing. We'll plan on doing a workshop before our July regular meeting. And I think that, and we'll get the materials that you have in front of you posted up on the website for public review. So I think that puts a bow on the DFC matter for the time being. The only other thing that we do have coming up, there is a GMA 12 meeting that'll be June 24th. This is essentially a pre-planning meeting for the next DFC cycle. Given some of the contention that came up regarding development and pumping files and how we do some of these basic representations, we decided to start having the discussions about how we want to implement that in the next cycle now. So this will be the first set of discussions at the GMA level about how we envision the process in the next cycle, what we want to include, what we want to change. And I think it'll be a good conversation. I suspect we're going to hear from Gary Westbrook again regarding their changes, and that I suspect Alan Day from Brazos Valley is going to be opposed to those again. I had previously told Gary I'm all for making adjustments, but just not during the last 3 months of a planning cycle. So I think it's going to be a good discussion, and hopefully a very fruitful one. It will not be the last one of this nature before the next planning cycle, but we're trying to get ahead of the curve on this one. So that will be June 24th, 10 a.m. I believe this is posted as a mixed meeting, both virtual and in person. So we'll get the web link up we'll get that on the calendar along with the web link for anybody that wants to watch virtually. I suspect I'll be there in person because how do you pass up a chance to go to Milano?
Very easily.
Jim, I would appreciate being updated. If I could watch it virtually, it would suit me a lot better.
Absolutely.
Also on the DFC side, if we could have it close to our August meeting, it would suit me a lot.
No, that's right.
I'm trying to be gone in the New Mexico mountains for most of the summer, and I have to drive back to attend that, these meetings, and of course, that's my problem, but anyway.
Well, I appreciate your point, and it's going to come down to a question of venue availability as well. Apparently, the Bastrop Convention Center is doing gangbusters business. So finding a venue of appropriate space at the appropriate time, we may get pushed back that far as well. So it's something we can look at as we try and plan this out.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's what I have for you tonight.
Okay. Mr. Ellis is not present, so we don't have anything to discuss regarding legislative updates. Item 13 is consideration of board workshop, conferences, meeting, and educational opportunities. Board members desire to attend. Peggy did include in your packet an upcoming workshop that might be of interest to you. Consideration of agenda, calendar, and events. The calendar was attached to the packet. As stated earlier this evening, our regular and next scheduled meeting is scheduled for the 21st, but that could change, so we'll hold for the 21st.
Yeah.
And are we still going into executive session tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At this time, would you like to take a quick recess? Before? Okay. Let's take just a 5-10 minute recess.
Okay, good. No, that's good.
Marcus Garrett, I bet you had it.
Yeah, I saw you walk in, but I couldn't place you.
Thank you.
I mean, process.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I think I know.
I mean, it'd be, we'll find that out. It would be nice if y'all to be able to negotiate something on once we have you, but I understand it's probably not a high probability event, so.
Really? For what I was saying?
No, that's what I thought I heard that's what y'all people have gone on. But I would always encourage negotiating a solution first.
Yeah.
We can hope.
I'm
You
gonna
still
take-
working?
Talk with
She's on vacation this
our
week.
folks, and, I talked to Andy, some of the numbers,
Yeah, I think
and
the
I'm
last
speaking
time
my same
you were
personal.
still working.
Yeah, no.
Remote half the day.
The total program number is,
I like where you're
nonstop, and, that's not reality.
That's the way they always used to calculate those.
I'll come to you.
I mean, back long before.
They just said, oh, give me 350 GBM, boom, 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 right at that acre fee per year.
So we could do just a sanity check and talk about. How you doing, sir? Very similar. My name is Marcus Garrett. I'm a director of Manville, also work at the Edwards Aquifer Authority.
You called the office today,
My day job, I'm a geologist, just like this gentleman here.
And I know there's a couple
He works,
I'm
he
one of
works,
those crazy
he works on, he works on wacky
They live in
actors. We've got fairly normal
They
actors here.
spend all summer out.
He works on those ones you can see.
The fun ones.
The fun ones.
There's a couple of good wells down there in Blue.
Yeah, man, yes, sir.
I've driven through a lot of that.
A lot of time over. Hey, I need you to come to my place in Weber. I got too many.
We're gonna do the executive here, so.
Bye, Andy.
At this time, the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors will adjourn into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 or any closed session permitted by law to consult with attorneys and seek advice regarding the following items. Consultation with attorney regarding the request of Gatehouse Water LLC for no increase amendment to special condition number 8 of operating permit for district wells number 5933122. I knew they were gonna give me tonight. 5933123, 5933217, 5933409, 5933410, 5933411, 5933412, 5933413, and 5933504, and 59335 from the Centerville Aquifer located in Lee County Gatehouse permits. We will be going into executive session at 8:49. We will reconvene back into regular session at 9:12 p.m. There is no action coming out of executive session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move second, third, and fourth.
Fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth.
We're adjourned.